Hello, welcome back to the Smallholding. So today in this video I'm going to harvest some of my second earlies out of the containers that I've been doing them in and the compost sacks and see how they've done. I know they've actually done okay because I've been harvesting them as I've been using them, but I'm going to just harvest some and I'll weigh them and sort of show you what I've got. So the compost sacks do work. It is a pretty good idea if you're struggling for containers. They do work pretty well and they didn't flop too much either. So we'll have a bit of a tip out and a weigh up and just sort of see what I'm roughly getting per container. But then I'm also going to be planting some new buckets up now to get some potatoes in time for sort of midwinter up to Christmas time. I've never done them at this time of year before. It is a first for me. So we'll be doing that after we've had a look at this harvest. Right, so what I do basically is just rip the foliage off. Chuck that straight on the compost, and then I'm just knocking them out into the wheelbarrow, and then I can put the compost then straight up onto there as a brown into the compost pile. We'll just have a look what we've got. So like I said, I've been harvesting these as I go, and I'm pretty happy with doing them in containers. I do think my compost needs to mature a bit, but they have done okay. You know, like I say, I'm pretty happy with the results. I'm sure it can only get better with more finished compost. And I do even keep the little dinky ones like that. You know, they all cook up all right. That's the old seed potato there. They're a little bit too small, so I won't worry about them. It's like panning for gold. I think that's it. So all I do then when I've tipped one or two buckets out is I'll just tip the wheelbarrow out here, and then I can get a fork or something in a bit and just flick that up onto the compost. So that's one bucket. I only put in these buckets, I only put one seed potato. I did put two in a couple of them. This one was just the one, and that has given me just under 2 kilos. About 1 kilo 750 grams roughly. So you know, pretty happy with that. We'll have a look at this other one as well. I'll just put those into a separate bucket. Just have a look at this other one, and then we'll get the compost sack and see how that's done. There's nothing like harvesting your own potatoes. Obviously, potatoes being a staple, they are fairly cheap to buy, but it's just that thing of growing your own. You know, using them as a staple, and like I say, it's always that thing of pulling them out of the ground and just seeing it. It's just fantastic. I really love it. It's one of my favourite vegetables to harvest. And actually doing it in these containers, I think it's more exciting than lifting them out of the ground. So like I said, when I did these containers, none of this compost goes to waste. It's all going to go straight back into the system. And be revamped. So again, that was one seed potato. And basically exactly the same, about 1 kilo 750 grams, something like that. So pretty happy with that, not a bad result. Now let's do one of these sacks just to see how that's done. I think I'll put 2 potatoes in each of these. trying not to cut the sacks because I will reuse them. I will reuse them as many times as I can, really. I like to get as much use out of things as I can. So I don't know that these sacks have performed quite as well as the buckets. And the one thing I would say using them is that they're a little bit harder to water because the tops kind of fold in a bit and it's a bit more of a fiddle. But if you're stuck for containers, then it does work. That's the other one. So it does work. Like I say, if you're stuck for containers, but I just think for ease of watering, containers or buckets and anything that has a fixed lid, fixed opening, sorry, at the top is just going to be easier to water. See, I can tell this. They do work, but they haven't, and I don't know why they haven't performed as well. I've had a harvest, but as you can see, I reckon I've got about the same amount, but that was 2 seed potatoes in there. So I reckon that's a similar quantity. In fact, it's slightly less, about 1.5 kilos. So the sacks do work, but quite possibly not as effective as containers. And that could be because, you know, through July, we've had a lot of rain and I've been watering on odd days because we've had so much rain. I haven't needed to water quite so much, but I think perhaps I made the mistake. The water was getting into the containers better from the rain, but in the sacks, because they fold a little bit, maybe the rain wasn't penetrating enough. That compost was definitely a bit dry. So it could be my fault. Maybe had I focused more on checking the water in the sacks, it would have worked just as well. But it does work. You know, you will get a harvest, and it does work if you're struggling for containers. But anyway, I need to get the rest of these harvested now, and I'm going to just let them dry a little bit for a day or two in the compost shack out of the weather, because it's raining again today. It's another rainy day. We're early August now, first week in August. So I need the containers, and I've got 3 types, 1 kilo of each, of potatoes to plant now for Christmas. So I'm going to get on and get these emptied, and then we'll do that. So I've got a few empty buckets now that I've harvested my second earlies. And what I'm going to do, because I haven't got enough buckets to do all of the potatoes I've got, I'm actually going to put 3 potatoes, even in these 25 litre, I think they are, buckets. I'm just going to put 3 in and just see how they do, because I think the containers probably work a bit better than the sacks. So yeah, we're going to do 3 per container, and what I'm actually going to do this time, I'll put them in the same depth, so put about 3 or 4 inches in the bottom, so we are to about there. Put the potatoes on top, and then rather than fill them as they come through, I'm just going to fill the containers right to the top, get it all done now, and then just put them out and let them come through at their own speed. So basically the potatoes that I've got that you plant this time of year for Christmas, like I say, I've never done it before, planting potatoes for Christmas, but you basically use the sort of second earlies again. So I've got 3 different types. One is Maris Pear, the other is Nicola, and then there's Pentland Javelin. Now Pentland Javelin is actually a first early, but all of these potatoes should be ready, you know, roughly speaking, in the sort of 12 weeks. So we're first week of August now, you know, August, September, October. What I'm going to try and do is, once the foliage is sort of dying down, I'll cut the foliage and then I'll store them in here under cover so that they don't stay sodden. And the idea, I think, like I say, I haven't done this before, but is to just keep them sort of slightly moist, not sodden, so they don't rot. And I should be able to just keep them in the buckets in here under cover, away from frost and away from too much rain, and then just harvest the buckets as I do, sort of through the winter and hopefully up to Christmas, and will give me some potatoes to eat on Christmas Day, which would be lovely. So I'm going to get these in 3 per bucket, and like I say, it's another test, never done it before this time of year, and I just want to see how it goes, because I do love harvesting my own potatoes. There's nothing like a fresh potato. So 3 potatoes, and these are fairly decent ones. I haven't chitted them, they've just come. There are little sprouts on them just starting, so I'm not going to chit them or leave them out. I'm literally just going to get them straight in. These are the Maris Pia, 3 potatoes per bucket, and then I'm going to top it right to the top. Just going to make sure the compost hasn't got any lumps in it, give it a bit of a break up. And it is a bit dry, this compost, so I will make sure I give them a good water, although it is pouring with rain today. I'm going to top them right to the top of the bucket, literally right to the top. That will settle a little bit so that I can give them a good water without it overflowing. The compost will always settle an inch, and that's them done. We just got to wait and see what happens now. But I will update you and let you know what sort of harvest I got. I'll tip them out and weigh them again. But yeah, really looking forward to this. I've never done potatoes for Christmas before. I usually leave my main crops in the ground, but obviously I've been giving my potato patch a rest this year, so my main crops are in containers, and I haven't tipped any of those out yet. I'll probably start tipping those out probably end of August. It just depends. I always get a bit impatient and sometimes tip them out and have them when the potatoes are a bit smaller, but you know, they should last hopefully in the containers too. So we'll see how they go, and perhaps I'll do a little video on that in the future as well. But anyway guys, take it easy and we will see you next time.